I shot up from the sofa, my heart pounding out of my chest. I looked around the familiar yet glaringly luxurious living room, my mind a complete blank. I had been strangled to death by that snake, so how was I back in the Shen house? Xinyan, what are you staring at? That familiar voice cut through. It was my mother, Su Manrong. I turned and saw her standing nearby, with my second sister Xinjiu beside her. Then my third sister Xinqingyi and the adopted son Xinjinghao walked in one after another. Su Manrong's eyes dropped to the delicate evening dress I was wearing. Her fingers brushed over a small stain at the hem, and her face went cold instantly. She raised her hand and covered her face slightly, her voice dripping with accusation. Xinyan, did you dirty the dress? Beside her, Xinjinghao's eyes flickered with a sly calculation. He shot a quick glance at me, then turned away, acting like he had nothing to do with it. Before I could even open my mouth, he spoke up softly, his voice fake and sweet. Mom, don't be mad. I'm sure my brother didn't mean it. Please don't blame him. I knew that act too well, the fake sweetness, the twisting of the truth. In my past life, that act made everyone take his side every single time, and I could never defend myself. Xinqingyi jumped in right after, pouring fuel on the fire. Her face was full of sarcasm and contempt. Before you came back, this family was stable and peaceful. Ever since you returned to the Shen house, things keep getting lost or broken. There hasn't been a single day of peace. Xinjiu stared at me too, her eyes harsh and sharp, every word an accusation. You hang out with all those shady people, pick up all kinds of bad habits, and cause trouble the moment you come home. I really don't know why you tried so hard to come back in the first place. I stood there quietly, listening to them take turns blaming me, and I felt nothing. In my past life, I panicked and explained myself every time, but no one ever listened. Everyone already decided I was the one at fault for everything. Since explaining was useless, I wasn't going to waste a single word this time. I stood up slowly and gave the whole room a dismissive shrug. I admitted to the false accusation without a fight. Everyone in the living room froze, staring at me in shock. This was the first time I, the stubborn one who always argued back, had just accepted the blame. Su Manrong's eyes went wide, disbelief all over her face. So it really was you? Who else? I curled my lips into a cold smirk. Our sweetest, most well-behaved little brother already said so. So of course I'm the one in the wrong. This is just going through the motions of admitting it. Years of punishment and mistreatment had been carved into my bones. I clenched my jaw hard and slowly lowered myself into a crouch. Ever since I was little, every time I got blamed or punished, I would automatically drop into this same pathetic position. Seeing me like that, Su Manrong was even more convinced I wasn't truly sorry. Her eyes flared with anger, and she grabbed a leather whip off the side table. She raised her hand and brought it down on me. The sting of it spread across my skin instantly. I bit down hard on my teeth and didn't make a sound, letting the lashes fall one after another. Xinjinghao, Xinjiu, and Xinqingyi all stood by, watching with cold, blank faces. No one said a word to stop her. My heart turned to ice. I knew this feeling too well. What an orphan wants most is warmth and love from family. But ever since I was brought back to the Shen house at 13, I'd been treated worse than a stranger. Everything I said was wrong, everything I did was never good enough. The abuse, the humiliation, the unfair treatment went on for years. This cold, cruel family wasn't worth a single bit of my effort or kindness. When the whipping finally ended, I pushed myself up with my sore, numb body, struggling to my feet. Su Manrong looked down at me, a cold smile on her lips. No lunch for you today. Go kneel at the front gate until nightfall. As soon as she said that, Xinjinghao put on his usual gentle, pitying face. He stepped forward and pretended to plead with Su Manrong. Mom, please forgive him. He must have just been confused for a moment. He didn't mean it. Please don't punish him anymore. That act of his calmed everyone down right away. They all praised him for being understanding and kind-hearted. Shinjiu immediately turned to me and said, "Aren't you going to thank your brother?" I looked up, pure disgust in my eyes. Looking at this fake family, all the pain and anger I'd held in for 5 years finally exploded. Thank him? Oh, I was going to thank him all right. Without a word, I reached over, grabbed the crystal vase off the coffee table, and threw it at Xinjinghao's head with all my strength. There was a dull thud, and he let out a grunt before collapsing to the floor. I casually brushed the dust off my hands and swept my cold gaze over the panicked crowd. Just think of that as my final gift to him. Are you all happy now? Starting today, I, Xinyan, am done with the Shin family. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. I didn't bother looking at anyone's shocked or angry faces. I turned and walked out of the Shin villa without looking back even once. Behind me, everyone rushed over to check on Xinjinghao. No one paid any attention to me walking away. I made my way out of the villa district and finally reached my tiny rented room. Looking at the only school uniform I had, feeling the worn-out soles of my shoes, my nose started to sting. Xinyan, what kind of miserable life have you been living for these 5 years? You gave your whole heart trying to please everyone in the Shin family, begging for a scrap of love, and all you got was scars and humiliation. From now on, I'm not pleasing anyone. I'm not begging for warmth. This life, I'm living for myself. I will never forget all the hurt and humiliation the Shin family put me through. Not one bit. The college entrance exam was finally over, and the tension that had been wound tight for years suddenly let go. But I felt no joy, only a cold sense of relief. In my past life, I was timid and weak, letting the Shin family walk all over me until I ended up dead. Now that I've been given another chance, I've seen how cold people really are. With the exam out of the way, I decided it was time to turn my life around completely and start my own new chapter. I knew this was the era of the internet exploding. Chances for regular people to rise up were everywhere. Bitcoin, short videos, new social platforms, affordable e-commerce, each one was a real shot at changing your fate. In my past life, I was stuck in the Shin family's mess, trapped by the chain of family, and I missed every opportunity. This time, I wasn't going to let myself regret a single thing. I reached out to my old friends from the orphanage right away. We were all kids with no one to depend on, who'd seen the world for what it was early on, and we were all willing to fight. I laid out my business plan, and we agreed immediately. Together, we scraped together 8,000 yuan to start with. That money might not seem like much to some people, but it was everything we had. It was my starting point for turning things around. With that cash in hand, I felt ready to go all in. Back at the Shin villa, everything looked peaceful on the surface. The family sat around chatting, all warm and friendly. After a while, the eldest sister, Shin Jingxian, looked around at everyone laughing and hesitated before speaking. Does anyone have Xinyan's contact info? The room went dead silent. No one answered. In this huge, wealthy, powerful Shin family, not a single person had kept my number. Third sister Shinqing let out a sneer, her voice dripping with contempt. Sis, why are you worried about him? He thinks throwing a tantrum and running away will make us go beg him to come back. That's a joke. Second sister Shinjiu agreed, not a trace of worry in her eyes. He's always been difficult, full of poor habits. He ran off without a penny. In a few days, when he's got nowhere to go, he'll come crawling back and apologize. Mother Su Manron was holding a plate of fruit, her expression cold. She was sure I wouldn't make it out there on my own. She was just waiting for me to come home broken, so she could punish me even harder for this and teach me a proper lesson. Only Xinjinghao kept playing the kind, gentle little brother. He spoke up softly, trying to defend me. Mom, second sis, third sis, don't say that. Brother's just confused, it was a spur-of-the-moment thing. He'll come back once he's had time to think. Please stop blaming him. His fake pleading won him pity and comfort from the whole family. Everyone praised him for being kind and generous. No one noticed that when he lowered his head, a tiny, sly, vicious smile curled at the corner of his mouth. Only Xinjingxian, who was more observant, caught that flicker of something off. She frowned a little, a small doubt forming in her mind, but she didn't think much of it. That night, worried about me, Xinjingxian went alone to the small side room where I'd always lived. The room was tiny and dark, with barely any furniture. It was the worst room in the whole villa. Other than me, only the maids ever went in there. She'd heard from the servants about what my life was like. For 5 years, all I'd had was one school uniform and one pair of worn-out shoes. No one had ever bought me new clothes. I kept to myself and spent all my free time working part-time to cover my own expenses. I'd never taken a single cent from the Shin family. Piece by piece, these small truths started hitting Xinjingxian. She stood in that empty, cold room, dazed, and couldn't believe it. For the first time, she started to wonder if her family had been too harsh on me all these years. A maid handed over an old phone she'd found hidden under my bed, my only personal possession. Xinjingxian unlocked it and scrolled through the chats and photos. One by one, the pictures and messages broke through all her defenses. The gallery was full of her photos, and screenshots of countless award certificates. I had kept all these clumsy, sincere records, quietly collecting every proud moment of my eldest sister's life. Xinjingxian was a top student at a prestigious university, the pride of the Shin family. She'd always been first in everything, winning awards and shining bright. She suddenly remembered that once, when I was little, I tiptoed into her study just to take pictures of her certificates, and she'd screamed at me to get out, warning me never to set foot in her study again. She'd always thought I was cold, distant, and ungrateful. She never knew that I'd brag about her to everyone outside, telling them she was my proudest role model. She also remembered her own bad stomach, and how she often skipped meals when she was busy. Back when I was little and heard she was having an attack, I ran over to her company with hot food, only to be stopped and chased away by security guards who didn't know who I was. All those little memories rushed back, stabbing at her heart. Xinjingxian covered her mouth, tears falling silently as she slumped to the floor in that empty room, sobbing. Xinyan, why did you never say anything? Why did you keep quiet about all this suffering? Meanwhile, in the internet cafe, I'd already started building my business. Using my memory of the past and a sharp eye, I got ahead of the Bitcoin trend. In just a few hours, I made over 4,000 in profit, my first real earnings. Right as I was focused on the screen, a bunch of street thugs swarmed around me. They looked mean and greedy, staring at my computer screen. Hey kid, looks like you're making good money. Let us in on it, share some of that cash with us. I immediately went on guard, pulling my computer close. I don't know you. The leader swaggered closer, smirking. Doesn't matter if you know us now, we'll get to know each other once we're making money together. He reached out to grab my mouse. My eyes went cold. I wasn't going to back down. I grabbed the ashtray off the table and smashed it right on his head. Blood poured out, and chaos broke out. These thugs had never seen me act so ruthless and decisive. They froze, too scared to even talk trash, and scrambled away in panic. I watched them run off, my eyes completely empty. The weak version of me from my past life was dead. From now on, anyone who messes with me will get it back twice as hard. Hidden in the shadows, Xinjinghao had seen everything. He watched the thugs flee, his eyes full of contempt. Useless bunch of losers, not even able to handle a kicked-out nobody. What a waste of the money he'd spent. He turned and slipped away silently, going back to playing the harmless, gentle role in front of the family. Back at the Shen villa, Shen Jingxian couldn't sleep all night. Her guilt and doubts only grew stronger. She couldn't take it anymore and desperately wanted to find me and ask me the truth about everything. The next morning, she dragged a reluctant Shenxinyi into the car and drove off to search for me. Using the few clues the servants had given them, the two sisters made their way to the slums in the southwest of the city. This was the most rundown place in the whole city, trash everywhere, the air thick with stink, muddy roads, and filth so heavy it choked you. Shenxinyi sat in the car, her face full of disgust, pinching her nose. "Sis, why did we have to come to a place like this? It's so dirty and gross. Xinyan must be hanging out with the lowlifes down here, completely lost." Shen Jingxian ignored her complaints, her eyes scanning the streets. Her heart was full of anxiety and worry, desperate to find me. After a moment, her gaze locked onto something. At the end of a far alley, I was walking alongside two old friends from the orphanage. We were chatting and laughing, but I was wearing thin, simple clothes, my frame looking so thin and pitiful. Shen Jingxian's eyes lit up, and she rushed forward, calling out, "Xinyan! I finally found you!" Beside her, Shenxinyi saw me too, and her expression soured. "Guess leopards don't change their spots. Here he is, turning down a good family, hanging out with a bunch of lowlifes. Absolutely hopeless." I looked up and saw the two Shen sisters walking over. There was nothing in my heart but cold indifference. In my past life, I'd wanted their attention and warmth. This time around, I had cut off all those hopes. I walked up, my face blank, and pushed them both aside. "Move!" I turned to leave, but Shen Jingxian grabbed my wrist, holding on tight. "Xinyan, where have you been for the past few days? We're worried about you." I yanked my hand free, putting all my pent-up anger into it. "I told you already. I have nothing to do with your Shen family." Shen Jingxian wouldn't give up. She reached out again, pulling me back. "Don't be stubborn. Come home with me. We can go back and explain things to Mom and Dad, and everything can be fixed." When I heard the words, "Mom and Dad," I almost laughed. It was the biggest joke I'd ever heard. Home? Parents? I looked straight at Shen Jingxian, my voice colder than ice. "Since when did I ever have parents? I never did. From the day I was born, I had never known a single bit of love from them. Only endless beatings, criticism, and neglect. They never once treated me like a real son, just a punching bag, or a stepping stone to make Shen Jinghao look good." Years of buried anger suddenly surged. On top of that, the exhaustion of working day and night, skipping meals, and long-term malnutrition all hit at once. My vision went black, my body swayed, and I collapsed. The two sisters panicked, their pride and disdain forgotten. They rushed to catch me and raced me to the nearest hospital. Outside the emergency room, Shen Jingxian and Shen Qingyi waited anxiously. Before long, the doctor came out, his face serious. He looked at the two expensively dressed women with obvious disapproval. "Are you the patient's family?" Shen Jingxian nodded quickly, her voice shaky. "I'm his sister." The doctor frowned even more, his tone full of disappointment and anger. "How can there be such a gap between siblings? You two look well off, well dressed. But your brother is in this state. Severe malnutrition, heavy anemia, severely underweight, long-term irregular living and poor diet. His body is badly worn down. If he'd come in any later, it could have left lasting damage." Those words hit Shen Jingxian like a hammer. She froze, her heart aching with guilt and regret piling up on top of each other. She had never imagined that in 5 years in the Shin family, I was living such a miserable life, not even having enough to eat, always hungry and sick. Inside the ward, I slowly opened my eyes, my mind clearing. When I saw Shin Jingxian come in, I stayed calm and showed no emotion. I pulled myself together, dressed slowly, and took 1,000 yuan in cash out of my pocket, holding it out to her. "Thanks for bringing me to the hospital. I'll pay my own medical bills. Here's your money back." Shin Jingxian watched me, so distant and cold, and her nose stung. She pushed my hand away and took hold of it instead, her eyes pleading. "Xin Yan, don't be so stubborn. Come home with me. You need to rest and recover right now." I pulled my hand back sharply. A cold smile spread across my face. "Rest? Go back to the Shin house for more whippings, more hunger, more kneeling? To keep begging you all for scraps? 5 years I spent in that house, getting ground down day after day, until a healthy body was wrecked with all kinds of problems. You all wore the mask of family, covered your cruelty in sweetness and love. All I feel looking at that fake warmth is pure disgust." Shin Jingxian stood there, at a loss, her eyes red, unable to find the words. I looked at her flustered, guilty face, my tone growing emptier. "Don't bother with this fake sympathy or trying to make up for it. In 5 years at the Shin house, I got 300 yuan a month. 5 years, that's 18,000 total. I've already earned that back on my own. I don't owe the Shin family a single thing. Go tell Shin Zhihong and Su Manrong that from today on, I, Xin Yan, am completely cut off from the Shin family. No ties, nothing." I put the signed severance agreement I prepared earlier on the bedside table and walked out of the room without looking back. Shin Jingxian stood alone in the empty hospital room, looking at the clean signature on the document, and the tears finally broke free. 300 yuan a month. Those words echoed in her mind, stabbing at her heart over and over. She finally understood, all of them, all these years, owed me so much. My phone buzzed a few times. It was the guys from the orphanage sending updates. Bitcoin was climbing just like I remembered, and our position had grown again. I replied quickly, telling them to hold steady and not get greedy selling too early. Back in the hospital room, Shin Jingxian was still holding that severance paper, her hands shaking. Shin Qingyi stood nearby, still wearing that stubborn look. "Sis, don't let his words get to you. It's just a tantrum. You think a piece of paper means anything? The family raised him all those years, you can't just write that off." Shin Jingxian whipped her head around, her eyes red, her voice low but full of anger. 300 a month. 5 years. 18,000. He kept track of it all. The so-called raising we gave him amounted to that little. Shin Qingyi was stunned, her mouth hanging open, unable to argue. The two drove back to the Shin villa with the agreement. As soon as they walked in, Su Manrong came up to them, annoyed. "Did you find him? Is he willing to come back and admit he was wrong?" Shin Jingxian laid the paper on the coffee table. That clean signature stung everyone's eyes. "He's not coming back." Shin Zhihong glanced at the document, and slammed his hand on the table. "Unbelievable! A piece of paper can't break blood ties. He's gotten too big for his boots and is deliberately going against the family." Shin Jinghao sat off to the side, his eyes lowered. His long lashes hid the satisfaction in his eyes, but his face stayed gentle. "Dad, don't get so upset. Brother must have been provoked in the moment. Once he cools down in a few days, maybe he'll come to his senses." He said those soothing words while quietly feeding Shin Zhihong the idea that all the fault was mine. In his version of events, I was an ungrateful, petty brat who couldn't take a bit of criticism and ran away. Su Manrong's face was cold as ice. "Fine. Let him stay out there. I'm curious to see how far he gets without the Shin name behind him. No family, no connections. Once his stomach starts growling, he'll realize his mistake. Shin Jingxian listened to her family, her heart growing colder. She tried telling them what the doctor said, how bad my health was, hoping they might reflect a little. No one wanted to hear it. Shinjiu scoffed. Bad health? That's because he's been running wild, sleeping out hours, hanging with the wrong people. How is that the family's fault? In that room, everyone stuck to their own stubborn biases. Only Shin Jingxian stood there alone, with no one on her side. At the same time, I met up with my partners at the internet cafe. The numbers on the screen kept climbing. Our original 8,000 had multiplied several times over. We all sat there, barely breathing. One of them said, excited, "Should we hold on to most of this? If we cash out some right now, we could already live well." I stared at the moving charts and shook my head. This is just the halfway point. If we sell everything now, we'll regret it later. Hold on to the bulk of it. Cash out just a small part to use as capital for our physical business. They had their doubts, but my calls had been right so far, so they trusted me. Just as we were finalizing the plan, a few unfamiliar figures blocked the door of the internet cafe. They were in plain clothes, looking aggressive, and their eyes locked onto me. Shin Jinghao had hired them secretly. He didn't want to get his hands dirty, so he paid men to drag me back home. If I got forced back into the Shin house, everything would go back to how it was, and he could keep playing the kind brother. The leader stepped forward, his voice rough. "Come with us. Your family wants to see you." My brothers from the orphanage stepped in front of me immediately. "Who are you? Why does he have to go with you?" They didn't bother talking, just reached out to grab me. I stepped forward and put my partners behind me. After going through death in my past life, and dealing with those thugs at the internet cafe, I wasn't the same pushover anymore. I didn't blindly start a fight. Instead, I raised my voice, getting the attention of everyone else in the cafe. At the same time, I pulled out my phone and started recording, pointing the camera right at them. "Trying to force someone away, I've got it on video. Take one more step, and I'm calling the cops." People gathered around, whispering and pointing. The group hadn't expected me to react so fast. Worried about causing a scene, they couldn't push any further. They just shot me dirty looks and slunk away. After they left, the cafe went back to its usual noise. My partners were still a little pale. "Was that the Shin family's doing? They won't let you go." I put my phone away, my gaze icy. "They're not going to give up that easily. From now on, we need to be careful." Back at the villa, Shin Jinghao got word that the operation had failed. His fingers clenched tight. He had thought that I, with no money or power, would be easy to handle. He never expected that after leaving the Shin family, I'd become so hard to deal with. Shin Jingxian stayed in her room, going through all the little things I'd left behind in that old room. Random notes and pieces of paper with small things I jotted down. The more she looked, the heavier her heart became. She made up her mind. Whether I forgave her or not, she had to find a way to make up for the past. But she didn't know that to me, her late guilt was already worthless. The money we cashed out came through smoothly. The balance was real, sitting in our account. We all crowded into the tiny rental room, barely able to contain our excitement. That money was enough to rent a proper small office space, so we wouldn't have to keep working from internet cafes. I split the funds carefully, some for backup, some for the office and basic equipment, and the rest kept in the market to wait for the right time. Everyone had their role, gathering online info, managing accounts, and keeping the team running smoothly. The Shin family hadn't stopped causing trouble. Shin Zhihong used his connections to spread rumors, quietly trying to smear my reputation. A lot of small businesses we talked to got the hint and refused to work with us. My partners kept hitting dead ends and came back to the rental looking defeated. Words spread that we're dishonest and ungrateful. Lots of people won't even talk to us once they hear who we are. I tapped my fingers on the table, having expected this. Shin Jinhong would use his influence to pressure me, trying to make me hit rock bottom so I'd be forced to come back begging. It's fine. We'll just move everything online. We don't need local connections or their circles. We shifted our focus, diving deep into online channels, slowly building our own ground. At the Shin family dinner table, they chatted about my situation. Shinjiyu lifted her teacup, a mocking tone in her voice. Heard he's been hitting walls everywhere, his business getting blocked left and right. Guess without the Shin family backing him, he can't do a thing. Su Manrong's face relaxed, as if everything was going according to plan. Give it a while. Once he's had enough of struggling, he'll come crawling back begging. Then I'll finally knock that rebellious attitude out of him. Shin Jinghao sat quietly, a faint smile on his lips, pretending to soothe things over. Behind the scenes, he kept sending people to track my every move. Only Shin Jingxian felt uneasy hearing all this. She knew it wasn't that I couldn't make it, it was her own father sabotaging me. After wrestling with it, she went to Shin Zhihong privately. Dad, stop trying to hurt him from the shadows. We're the ones who owe him. Why do we have to keep pushing? Shin Jinhong's face went dark immediately. You're taking an outsider's side now? He's the one who cut us off, threw away family ties. Everything that's happening is his own doing. They argued back and forth and left angry. Shin Jingxian couldn't change her father's mind. Frustrated, she secretly used her own savings to quietly help us out online, making sure no one in the family knew. She didn't expect me to forgive her. She just hoped to ease a little of the pain her family had caused me. One evening, after wrapping up work, I went out to get supplies. As I turned a corner, I ran into Shin Jingxian, who had been waiting there for a while. The evening wind blew dust through the street. She stood under the street lamp, looking tired and worn out. Shin Yen. She called out to me, carrying bags of clothes and supplements. I stopped, but didn't step closer. I just looked at her coldly from a few paces away. What are you doing here again? I don't mean anything by it, Shin Jingxian said, holding the bags out to me. I can't change what the family does, but this stuff is from me, not the Shin family. Your body's badly run down, take these and get some nutrition. I glanced at the fancy packages but didn't reach for them. No need. If you feel guilty, keep it for yourself. I don't need pity that comes too late. Her hand froze in midair, her eyes welling up. I know I did a lot wrong in the past. I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. But you can't keep letting your health go like this. My health is my own business. Whether I'm healthy or not, it has nothing to do with the Shin family. My tone didn't soften at all. I know you helped me behind the scenes. I remember that. But stop coming to see me. This back and forth just hurts both of us. I walked around her and kept going without stopping. Shin Jingxian stood there, clutching those bags, her shadow stretching long under the light, her guilt weighing heavy with nowhere to go. A few days later, the college entrance exam results came out. It spread across the whole city. When the score query portal opened, millions of students gathered around their screens. The Shin family gathered in the living room too, waiting anxiously for Shin Jinghao's results. He'd always done pretty well in school, so the whole family had high hopes. When the page loaded and the score appeared, the room went dead quiet. Shin Jinghao hadn't done as well as they expected. Far from it. Su Manrong's smile vanished instantly, her brows knitting together. Why is it this low? You were scoring much higher on your practice tests. Shin Jinghao hung his head, face pale, gripping his hands tight, feeling panic and resentment stirring inside. Just then, a news notification popped up on someone's phone. The city's top-scoring list had been posted. And sitting at number 1, clear as day, was me. The entire living room went silent. Shin Jihong stared, wide-eyed, in complete disbelief. Shin Jiyu and Shin Qingyu were frozen too, their smug faces cracking. They had never imagined that the person they'd looked down on and dismissed as hopeless would get the highest score in the city. Shin Jinghao stared at the name on the screen, jealousy and anger burning in his chest. Why did I shine even brighter after leaving the family? Shin Jingxian looked at the list, a mix of shock and something else, a faint, complicated relief. News spread fast, and top universities started reaching out, trying to recruit me. But I had changed my number and cut all ties with my old circle, so they couldn't find me no matter how hard they tried. Back in the rental room, my partners stared at the news on their phones. Top of the city! You hid this from everyone. The Shin family must be reeling right now. I glanced at the ranking on the screen and felt nothing much. In my past life, I'd gotten the same score, and I'd run home overjoyed, hoping my family would finally acknowledge me. Instead, Shin Jinghao stole the credit. Everyone praised him for being so brilliant, and all I got was cold words and mockery. This time, this honor was mine and mine alone. I didn't need to use it to win anyone's approval. Set the university offers aside for now. The business is more important right now. The market kept climbing, and we cashed out in batches as planned. Our cash flow grew, and we rented a proper office, bought computers, and didn't have to crowd into that tiny rental anymore. Back at the Shin house, the awkwardness hung in the air. No one wanted to talk about the exam rankings. Shin Jinghao was burning with jealousy inside, but he kept up his gentle act on the outside. Would you look at that? I never expected my brother to do so well. It's really surprising. Too bad he's turning down those university offers to mess around with some small-time business. What a waste. When Su Manrong heard that, she thought I was even more impossible. Turning down a bright future for some shady schemes. He just gets more stubborn by the day. Shin Jinghong's face was dark, his emotions tangled. He was shocked by my talent, but furious that I'd cut ties with the family. A thought crossed his mind: if I came back, that top score could be something the family could show off. He decided to send people to find me, offering great conditions to convince me to come home and study. When Shin Jingxian heard what her father was planning, she stepped in. Don't force him like this again. He should choose his own path. They argued again, with no resolution. 2 days later, Shin Jiyu showed up on her own. She didn't bring anyone, just stood alone outside our office building, stopping me as I was heading out. The afternoon sun was hot, and she was dressed in nice clothes, still carrying that condescending air. Shin Yan, let's talk. I stopped, my face cold. There's nothing to talk about. Don't be so defensive. Shin Jiyu frowned. You got the highest score in the city. Top schools are fighting over you. Why stay here doing these small-time deals? Come back with me. The family will give you the best education, all the connections, all the resources. I looked at her and let out a quiet, bitter laugh. Now you're offering me resources and opportunities? While I was at the Shin house, you never gave me any of that. Shin Jiyu's face faltered a little. Why do you have to keep bringing up the past? We're family. There shouldn't be grudges that can't be resolved. Dad's already willing to accept you back. Just take it. Family? I stepped closer, staring right at her. The whipping, the kneeling, the starving, always favoring the adopted son over me, that's your idea of family? You want me to come back for all the good stuff, but you want me to forget all the bad stuff. That's not how it works. Shin Jiyu was speechless, her pride bruised, and her tone turned cold. You're really going to be that stubborn? Even if you make a little money now, without a strong foundation, you're going to fall flat eventually. My foundation is something I earned myself, not something the Shin family gave me. I stepped around her. Tell Shin Jihong to stop sending people. I'm not coming back. I walked into the office without looking back. Shinji-yu stood outside, fuming, and went back to the villa to tell them everything. When she repeated the conversation, the whole family sat there, faces sour. Shin Jinghao kept his head down, quietly relieved. His biggest fear had been that I might come back. If I did, my shine would overshadow everything he had. My refusal was exactly what he wanted. Still, he let out a fake sigh. Brother's resentment runs too deep. I don't think it'll be easy to change his mind. After being rejected again and again, whatever goodwill Shin Jihong had left was replaced by anger. He'd said nice things, and I still wouldn't bend. It hurt his pride. Fine. If he's determined to make that mistake, let him. When he gets himself into trouble, he shouldn't expect the Shin family to help him. Shin Jingxian's heart sank when she heard that. She could see clearly, her family's so-called acceptance was never about genuine remorse. They only wanted me back for my name as the top scorer. Meanwhile, our online business kept growing steadily. Orders were coming in, and we were short on hands. Just as we were planning to hire, trouble hit again. A group of unknown people showed up outside our office causing a scene. They spread lies saying our business was a scam, stirring up gossip among the neighbors. Several potential partners backed off after seeing the commotion. One of my partners came upstairs, his face pale. The Shin family again. When they couldn't win you over, they decided to tear down our reputation. I stood by the window, watching the group downstairs causing a racket, my eyes hard. Shin Jiahong wouldn't let go. He wanted to use public opinion to destroy what we had just built, to back me into a corner. But this time, I wasn't going to take it lying down. Gather everything. Recordings, screenshots, all of it. If they want to play this game, we'll lay it all out in the open. The noise downstairs went on for hours. They kept shouting lies, painting our business as rotten. Pedestrians stopped to stare, and neighboring shop owners looked on with suspicion. My team members hid in the stairwell and filmed the whole scene, along with screenshots of payment conversations. We've got all the evidence now. Should we call the police? I shook my head. Calling the cops would only get rid of this group for now. Shin Jihong was powerful enough to send another one. To end this for good, we had to hit where it hurt. Compile everything, edit it down, and post it online. My partners hesitated, but did what I said. We collected videos, recordings, and screenshots, and laid it all out clearly, without dramatizing anything. Just facts, the severance, the secret sabotage, the hired disruption. The post took off almost instantly. The online uproar eventually cooled, and the Shin family didn't dare send anyone after us again. But Shin Jinghao's hatred didn't fade one bit. When open attacks didn't work, he started planning something more vicious. He secretly faked evidence to make it look like I was running an illegal business. He planned to anonymously report us to the authorities, hoping to destroy everything I'd built. If my company fell, I'd be ruined and never threaten him again. But Shin Jingxian had been keeping an eye on him. She'd been watching everyone in the house closely. She caught bits and pieces of Shin Jinghao's private dealings and evidence tampering. Late one night, she gathered it all. She sat there holding the proof, torn inside. On one hand, there was Shin Jinghao, the brother she'd grown up with. On the other, there was me, the one their family had hurt. Her guilt finally outweighed her loyalty to the family. She didn't show it to anyone at home. Instead, she sent everything to my email anonymously. When I opened the email early the next morning and read through it, my hand tightened. My partner looked at it with me, his face turning serious. He's trying to tear us down completely. He won't stop. So this is where it ends. I didn't immediately post it online to start another uproar. If this got out, Xinjinghao would be ruined, but our business would also get dragged into a messy public fight. Instead, I saved a full backup of the evidence. I also sent the forged documents to the relevant regulatory department ahead of time to prove our innocence. After their checks, all accusations were found to be fabricated, saving us from a major disaster. Xinjinghao waited for news of my downfall. What he got instead was word that the report had been rejected, and his trail had been found. He panicked for real, fear settling in deep. Inside the Shen house, the cracks were getting wider. Shen Jingxian stopped pretending everything was fine. Right in front of the whole family, she laid out all the evidence of Shen Jinghao's scheming. The fake report, the hired thugs, the stolen credit, everything laid out on the table. Su Manrong instinctively tried to defend him. Jinghao just made a mistake. A mistake? Shen Jingxian's voice shook. Trying to destroy someone again and again, that's not a mistake. We've all been letting this slide for years, and this is where it's led. Shen Zhihong stared at the pile of evidence, his face pale. He finally saw that the adopted son he doted on was nothing but vicious underneath. All those years of favoritism felt like a bitter joke. Xin Jiyu and Xin Qingyi sat quietly, at a loss for words. The past flashed in their minds, and they realized that so many of the conflicts had been stirred up by Shen Jinghao all along. The truth was out. That picture-perfect, rich family had shattered. Shen Jinghao's mask was torn off. He could no longer play the sweet, understanding brother, and he started fighting back hysterically, but the evidence was too strong. The Shen family had no choice but to end the adoption and throw him out. From being the center of everyone's attention, he fell hard. He lost everything and was left full of resentment, but powerless to fight back. After it all, the rest of the Shen family fell into a long silence. Shen Zhihong and Su Manrong finally felt true regret. They tried to make up for it, sending messages and offering money, hoping I'd let go of the past. I turned it all down. The damage was already real. Money couldn't fix what had been broken. Shen Jingxian came to see me one last time. This time, she brought no gifts, no pleas for me to come back. There's nothing left to say. What happened to this family is our own fault. I don't expect you to forgive me. I won't bother you anymore after this. She placed a bank card on the table, her own personal compensation. I didn't take it. Your help is what I'm grateful for. That's settled. From here on, we go our separate ways. May we never cross paths again. Shen Jingxian nodded, sadness in her eyes, and walked away. I chose not to go to university. After weighing it, I decided to keep building my business. The team grew, and so did our reach. The few thousand in startup capital became a sizable company. I no longer worried about food or clothes. My health slowly recovered, and the thin, pale look from before faded away. The friends from the orphanage who had started this with me also found their own footing. Sometimes I still heard bits about the Shen family. Shen Zhihong was never quite the same after everything. His business wasn't what it used to be. Su Manrong spent her days trapped in guilt, growing more withdrawn. Xin Jiyu and Xin Qingyi carried heavy burdens too, living in that big villa but never feeling whole. They had money, but they'd lost any chance at redemption. As for Shen Jinghao, without the Shen name and with his reputation ruined, he bounced around odd jobs, struggling to get by. Sometimes he would catch glimpses of me, successful and thriving, and his eyes would burn with jealousy. But he never had the guts to come anywhere near me. One evening, I stood by the office window, looking down at the city lights. In my past life, I craved family and love, groveling for it until I died. This time, I cut ties with that fake bond. I leaned on no one, and with my own hands I earned peace and dignity. The whips, the hunger, the humiliation, the cold stares, they were all in the past. I don't need to hate anyone anymore. I don't need to forgive anyone either. For the rest of my life, I'm only living for myself.